Listen. I've been hearing a lot lately about men don't talk, but in my experience, men do talk, just people aren't listening. So it's going to be me and a group of blokes discussing our struggles and victories through life. Warning, there may be some bad language, so apologies to all the mums, especially my own. Let's get going. Listen.
Binya, this is the Black Country Blokes, chewing the fat about everything it is, men's mental health, disability and life in general. Here with me, Kev Dillon, and my partner in crime, as always, Lee Cadman. Now we're joined by Ruben, who's joined us from America. So Ruben, first of all, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Kev and Lee.
And as always, before we start, we're going to talk about our gratitude list. Now, I'm grateful for so many things. I'm grateful for my family, my home. But this weekend, I just had a lazy weekend, staying in the warm with my girls before all the boxing shows happen. We've got our boxing show in 2 weeks. So it's the calm before the storm. So I'm just grateful for that moment of pause. Lee, what are you grateful for?
You know what? Actually, just before we started the show, we've been speaking to Ruben, and I'm grateful that he's come on today because I think this is going to be a really interesting talk, and I think we're going to get a lot of knowledge out of it, and it's going to help a lot of people with what's going on with our weather over here at the moment and the dark nights. So yeah, Ruben, I'm grateful you've come on today.
And Ruben, what are you grateful for, brother?
It's like looking at the light in the dark. I'm very grateful for heating since where I live right now is negative 25 degrees outside. So I'm very thankful for my home. I'm very thankful for heating, and I'm very thankful for warm clothes.
Now, Ruben has joined us from America. What part of America are you from, Ruben?
I'm in the Midwest, right in the middle of the United States.
And Ruben's found us on Instagram. So if there is anyone else out there who potentially wants to come on the show, drop us a message, and who knows, you could be on here. But Ruben's going to be talking to us today about SAD. Now, we all hear about SAD and how the seasons can affect our mood. But could you explain a little bit more about what it means, Ruben?
It truly is about paying attention and acknowledging that the environment, whatever is happening out there in nature and the seasons, affect the way we feel. The people with seasonal affective disorder are the ones that have it very clearly in front of them. But that doesn't mean that they are the only ones that experience that. That has been the inspiration of my journey and why I created the seasonal movement. And that's why I'm so passionate about spreading the word that the seasons affect us. And we have the knowledge and we know how to create routines to improve our well-being. So that's what I'm here for. And that's what I want to leave the audience with, those messages and those tips about how to lining their routines with the environment and the seasons.
How did you get fascinated about it?
I suffer from seasonal affective disorder for many years. It was 2015, after 5 years living in the Midwest, that the cycle of struggle continued to repeat itself. It was day after day. I will wake up depressed. I will start working. I will feel anxious and I will feel confused. And now looking back, I can see that it was 3 weeks of that. And they usually started at the end of the holiday season. That's when in the Midwest gets very cloudy, gets very cold, very windy, very wet. It gets kind of miserable out there. And I remember clearly telling to my wife the way I was feeling for the first time. And she looks at me very casually and she says, "Oh, you have the winter blues." And I look back at her, and to this moment, that has been the beginning of discovering and the reason why I'm obsessed by it, because it was a survival mechanism that I have to develop to be able to thrive. Because nobody told me when I moved to the Midwest, "Hey, kid, the seasons affect you, and they change the way you feel, think, and behave." Nobody told me that. So how come that's not common knowledge? How come that is not an important part of or education or even knowledge in our society? So I want to spread that message.
Well, we have lots of people from lots of countries come to the club, and they say we don't have depression in our countries. But then when you talk about the climate and how bad and cold the winters are and how cloudy and dark it is over here, within their first winter, you can see their positive energy fades because they haven't seen the sun in possibly 4 months.
Correct. The sun has a dramatic effect on our well-being. Our circadian rhythm is a new, it's science, but it kind of is out there. It's a trending topic. And essentially what we know now is that within our brain, from the very, like the most ancestral part of our brain, what some people call the reptilian brain, the lighting patterns then dictate our temperature and dictate how we feel throughout the day. So when it gets dark, the neurochemistry in our brain start going more towards sleeping. So neurotransmitters and hormones like melatonin start, becoming more abundant. So then we feel tired and we go to sleep. And then the inverse happens during the day. When the day comes up, when the light comes up, cortisol comes up and we become alert and we want to wake up and we feel more motivated. So during the seasons, this change. There is darker periods of the year and then there is brighter periods of the year. So we don't know that as much, and we don't pay as much attention as we should, because when we think about the climate, we think about temperature. But the lighting is a most affecting, changing pattern throughout the year, and it's cyclical, it repeats itself. So once you start to discover that, you really start realizing how much attention you should be placing on the place you live in the time you're living. Meaning, if you're in Australia during the middle of the summer, your experience is going to be very different than if you are in North America in the middle of the winter, even though it's the same time of the year. So the important thing to understand here is that we can create routines that align with every season so that we can be in alignment with our circadian rhythm.
Because sometimes when I come to work in the winter, I come to work and it's dark. I leave work, it's dark. And it's just artificial lighting all the time.
Of course, artificial lighting is one of the kind of number one enemies nowadays, because a lot of people don't know how to use them. There is, if it's dark and we have artificial light on our faces, we're not going to sleep as good. But in the morning, we actually want a lot of that light as soon as we wake up. So it wakes up our circadian rhythm and lets our circadian rhythm know, hey, we're awake. Let's start that 16-hour cycle. So then by the end of it, you're ready to go to sleep and had a restful 8 hours of sleep. So the first thing that we do when we look at seasonal routines is at what time are we going to sleep? And it's not the same throughout the year. It should follow consistently the sunset that changes throughout the seasons and throughout the year. It shouldn't be that I go to sleep every day at 9 p.m. or at 10 p.m. because during the winter time, the sunset might be at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. But in the summertime, the sunset might be at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. So we have to adjust in order to align ourselves with our natural neurochemistry, hormones, neurotransmitters that are being, are in the background. So the most that we align ourselves with those rhythms, the more fulfillment we're going to feel, the most energy. We're going to be the most efficient, and we're going to basically have more energy, be more motivated. But those change throughout the year, and that's the big message that I bring, is to start paying attention to them and start aligning with those changes throughout the year.
Because I was talking to someone the other day about SAD, and he suffers from it, and he's got an alarm clock, but instead of music playing, it gradually gets lighter in his room. It's an alarm clock that bases itself on light. Have you ever heard of that?
It's got one.
Who's got there it is.
Yeah, I also have my happy light. So lighting, there are houses right now being built with automatizations that follow the natural lighting to enhance human beings' well-being. So this is an industry. And it does help quite a bit, because when you're sleeping, that light comes on and you start waking up before you even wake up, before the sun goes up. Because something interesting that happens is that even though you might be awake, your circadian rhythm might be delayed. Like it hasn't really wake up, which is, super interesting. But as soon as the light goes on, all of a sudden the stress alarms go on. So I was talking to a guy that has blood sugar issues, and he will have a tracker on him. And this is known on that on that is known, like it's a common universal theme, that the cortisol levels will spike, the insulin levels will spike with this when the sun goes up. Even though the person has been awake and in the gym for an hour, he hasn't really been fully awake. Their circadian rhythm is alerting him, hey, be awake, the sun is up, and the insulin goes up. So it's that neurochemistry in our brains is so linked with the lighting cycle, and that's why this works.
Have you got any other things like something like that? Like, would you, as soon as you wake up, would you turn on the light or would you open the curtains? Because sometimes you're waking up and it's dark, but would you necessarily put the light on?
Well, interestingly, or the reason that the lighting, when the lighting is a signal, but what truly happens is your temperature changes. So one could make the argument to actually go outside, and changing temperatures will actually wake you up as well. But essentially, if you look through a window and you get sunlight throughout the day, there's like a 50% waste of the actual UV light that you want.
The window's blocking it. Is that
because the window is blocking it, the window and also the screen of the window. So the best way to get it is to step outside and get it. But as you said, you wake up at 5 in the morning, it's dark. So the reality is that we can fantasize and say, hey, this is the tip, this is how you do it. But if it's not convenient or realistic for you to do, then it doesn't really mean anything. And it actually leads towards more frustration, right? So a more convenient and realistic way of doing it is by turning a bright light. In this case, if you have a happy light, then you sit in front of it for 10 minutes. But if you don't have one, you can just turn the brightest light you can in your house. What I do is I turn the lights as bright as I can in the morning. And once we go at night, I try to keep them as dim as I can.
And with the happy light, is it a heated lamp or is it just a normal bright lamp?
It's just a very bright lamp that is somewhere usually the recommendation is 10,000 UVs. So, 10,000 lux. I apologize. And basically, you can just go on Amazon and buy them, but it doesn't really generate any heating at all. It's just the brightness of it.
Because I used to have in here, funny enough, it's a heater, but it's a bright light on it. Would you recommend, is that even better?
It has to be 10,000 luxes is the recommendation. If it's less than that, then it doesn't really mimic the sunlight. So what I do is that I get a happy light, maybe $50 on Amazon, and then you have it in your desk. So when you're working, it's very convenient to turn it on. It's not that you're going to go and sit in front of it, stop everything you're doing. No, you have to make it convenient so the behavior sticks. And I start using it early on the fall because I know that I want to, as I start seeing the shifting in the lighting, I actually go in before so it doesn't hit me. Because if you wait till, the winter blues hit you, you're a little behind the game. So you want to be able to see it coming and you want to, you can predict it. That's the beauty about cycles and the seasons and the year is coming around the same time every year. So you can plan for it. That's why I do seasonal transitions. It's like, okay, fall is coming. What do I want to do this fall? Let me align my main behaviors, which are sleep, exercise, nutrition, novelty, like do something interesting every single season. How am I going to connect to people that I love? Because this is something that is not much spoken on, but when we're talking about seasons, we also have to pay a lot of attention of the social dynamics of every season. A lot of people that suffer from SAD in January and February, because those are times that you're basically by yourself. There is no much social connection happening. And it's just right after the holidays, which the holidays can be very stressful, bring a lot of anxiety, excitement. It's a roller coaster. Here in America, we got Halloween, we have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas, and every single holiday is like 5 events in one, right? Like all the family meetings. So you go from a roller coaster to nothing. So the social environment is very important. So we plan for that. We look at, am I going to need a little bit of time for myself this time of the year because there's too much going on? Or do I want to make sure that I don't isolate myself and go to a group or connect with the people that I love on a one-on-one basis?
That's very true, isn't it? Because as the weather gets colder, we say all the time, you huddle down, you stay in your house, you don't socialise out with people because you do, don't you? You huddle down, you kind of hibernate a bit more, don't you? Within probably January, February, and leading into March.
Correct. So there is a link to neuroscience, and it comes from the behavioral models out there, the iceberg behavioral model, which tell us that 5% of what we do is a conscious thought behavior. The other 95% are basically is how our brain processes information without we also even realizing. Well, it happens that from that 95%, a lot of it comes from genetics that have been with us to survive. And you just mentioned hibernation. What did we used to do 1,000 years ago in the wintertime? I mean, we will gather inside, we won't get out as much. And there is three things that affect our non-conscious thinking, which are the environment, and everything is related to surviving, everything is related to conserving energy, everything is related to avoiding risk. So that keep us indoors. Like there is a certain risk element of going outside when it's negative 20. So we don't want to go outside. So we stop working out. We stop doing the things that we enjoy doing, the hobbies. We start basically completely changing our routine by necessity, but we don't change those routines. We don't basically do something that we can be doing in that time that will be healthy for us. For example, if I can't play baseball in the winter, well, maybe I replace that for an indoor sport. Maybe I play basketball. If I can't go outside for, sit outside my porch and enjoy the weather, well, I can replace that by making a habit of painting or reading during the winter time. We have a process to go identify and to replace our behavior season after season.
Two questions there, because of what you're saying about genetics. In the winter, about hibernation, we would eat lots of food to put weight on to keep us warm through the winter. And a lot of times in January, we start dieting, we stop eating food. But it's tough, isn't it? Because there's something in our body when it's cold wants to eat a lot of junk food and fatty foods.
Yeah, so what happened, you're mentioning two things. And one comes from our survival mechanisms of storing fat to survive. That might explain the need for cravings of carbohydrates and warm food. So then we binge watch movies and eat a lot. That explains that. But then on the other side, you're expressing that we have a natural tendency of creating new goals. And that happens due to the yearly cycle of New Year resolutions. So Chinese traditional medicine explains the seasons and the energy of the seasons. And essentially, they are natural draws that we have as humans to do a certain activity. So in the winter, there is a lot of introspection. There is a lot of looking back to the past, analyzing, and basically moving forward to the future. So that explains why then we try to change and we try to create a new path during that time of the year, compared to the springtime, which is a time of renewal, which is a time of get going, like a lot of energy, a lot of activity. And there is things that I call seasonal cues. For example, when you go in the spring, the weather changes, it's sunny outside, you go for a walk, everybody's for a walk that day. You know which day I'm talking about. And you see a tulip, you see those bulbs, the first flowers come up. That is a seasonal cue that sends a signal to your brain that renewal, something is happening, and is activating yourself at a different level that the other opposite will be on the fall time. Let me give you an example. It's summer, is warm, and the fall time arises. And it's getting colder and warmer. And all of a sudden, when the vortex shows up, like you got that cold wind, the first cold wind of the year. In our case, it's a northern polar wind, and the transition fully happens, and we're entering into winter. There is a cortisol rises. There is a signal your brain is telling you, hey, you better prepare because you need to survive. You better start gathering your stuff. So a lot of people internalize that stress signal as something is wrong, which, in this case is not, because we have supermarkets, we have heated houses. But that mechanism has been there to make us survive. So it doesn't really care if we are having a good, like if we are thriving, if we are achieving the goals that we want to achieve, if we're progressing. It just wants to survive. So it signals the exact same signal that it used to signal 1,000 years ago.
That's very interesting because, as you say, our reptile brain, our prehistoric brain, has those cues, and our subconscious, our physical bodies go into autopilot, don't they?
They go into autopilot, of course. They are part of the 95% of our cognitive activity that we don't even realize it happens. Our reptilian brain is where we regulate our breathing, or blood pumping, and those same reactions. When we're talking about the circadian rhythm, that is also part of our reptilian brain.
And something else, I mean, about the lights. I always think when all your Christmas lights and Christmas decorations come down, that first couple of weeks in January, how everywhere seems to be so dark and miserable. And just seeing those beautiful little lights and decorations fills you with happiness and joy. But when you drive down the same road, it suddenly becomes very miserable.
So again, that is a personal experience that you have as a seasonal cue. It's something that comes year after year, and it's something that reminds you of something. So a lot of who we are is shaped by our experiences. So that is making you think about that time of the year, and is activating automatic programs, mechanisms that again are here to make you survive. So it might mean for you to slow down and get into that, hey, it's time. I don't know exactly your personal. If I ask you more questions, I can probably get to understand a little more. But the universality of what you're feeling is that we all feel similar seasonal cues throughout the year, and they activate parts of our brain, and our neurochemicals activate differently throughout the year. So when we are aware of that, we can start planning for it, and we can be proactive, so that winter doesn't get you in a bad spot and gets you into sad mode, right? Instead of that, if we know that this time of the year I'm going to be introspective, I'm going to be resting more, I'm going to honor that, I'm going to maybe not work 10 hours, but I'm going to work 9 hours, and I'm not going to be able to go for a run, but I do want to exercise, so let me get a gym membership. Or I'm not going to be able, you see, it's just creating, like, knowing that it's coming and ensuring that you are going to be well taken care of so you can continue to expand. It's a cycle. So we're living in a cycle, and it's like a vortex, and it's just a little bit of expansion, a little bit of growth, season after season will get you to be, at a higher level, at a better level, and it will allow you to enjoy life.
Sorry, Kevin, we've had a question come in from Facebook. I'll just bring it up on the screen and then I'll read it out. So, Steve Ansel, how you doing, Steve? What would be the best 3 things to change or adjust when the winter months come to avoid the effects of the winter blues? Can I just add to that? Actually, I think can you do 3 for each season?
Yes,
that you adjust.
Yes, absolutely. So from a neuroscience perspective, we know that the most impactful behaviors we can adopt on any single routine are sleep, exercise, nutrition, and the list keeps going, right? Novelty. But I'm going to hit on the 3 most impactful behaviors, and I'm going to show you how you can adapt them every season. So the first thing that you want to do is to go into a website. If I can provide I will provide the link on the comments, and you can plug in your location. And I'm going to provide a spreadsheet that will guide you through the whole exercise, which is you're going to plug in your location, and you're going to see throughout the seasons. The spreadsheet will have the date of when are you going to be able to see that. And the dates in the spring are during daylight savings time. We haven't touched on that yet, but the transition from winter to spring happens in daylight savings time. So what I want you to do is to align your sleep based on the sunset of every transition in the seasons, because that will align you. Again, we want to have somewhere close to 3 hours of like when the sunset happens, we want to go to sleep around 3 hours if we can, because that's the average human being, average melatonin production necessary to feel sleepy. So if you go to sleep at the right time, then you sleep 8 hours, and then you wake up based on that. So I'm going to give you from the sleeping perspective, that's what happens. You're going to go to sleep earlier in the winter, and you're going to wake up early in the winter. Now, how can you make that transition smoothly in your routine? Because everybody might go to work every day at 8 or at 9 o'clock, and that might not change. So what we do is that we play with the exercise. If you wanna be healthy, you wanna exercise daily. So whatever kind of exercise you're doing, which I recommend varying throughout the year, but whatever exercise you're doing, you can do the exercise in the summertime, perhaps after your work, because your days are so long. So you get out of work at 6 p.m., at 5 p.m., you still have a great time to go outdoors and work out or go whatever you want. And I recommend doing outdoor workouts so you can magnify that time. You can enjoy that time of the year. But in the winter time, you might want to sign up for a gym, because our brain, our subconscious brain, is going to tell us, no, it's cold outside. Don't go out for a run, for many reasons, right? So instead of that, it's like, no, listen, subconscious brain, I have a gym membership and I really love the way I feel after working out. After working out, then you go to work. So you play a little bit with the timing, the frequency, and the intensity of those behaviors. Again, sleeping, you go to sleep early in the winter, you wake up early and you go work out. And then summertime, you go to sleep late and you wake up late. By late, I mean later than the winter, later than what you think is what your mom told you, which was maybe 9 or 10, a little later than that. And you don't feel bad when you wake up late in the morning, because, we live in a society that tells everybody a go-getter wakes up by 4 in the morning and gets a lot more done than the average person, right? Like that has been drilled in our head. And that's great advice for winter, but that's no great advice for summer, because you tell me how you're going to go to sleep and sleep 8 hours in the summertime if you have to wake up by 5. It just doesn't happen. So again, transition, you have a routine. Just for starters, since I have to simplify it here, I'm not even going to go 4 seasons. I'm going to simplify it to 2 seasons, the fall and the winter. And then on daylight savings time, you switch to the spring and your summer routine. And it follows those: sleep and exercise. And then the last one will be really paying attention to your nutrition. I'm not really going to get into like high levels of detail, but it has been very popularized that we can do fasting, right? Intermediate fasting at any level. What I want you to consider is when is the most convenient and the most beneficial to do that throughout the year, so that you can recognize that in the winter, most likely what we all try to do is increase our energy, because we tend to slow down a little bit, right? Like we tend to feel a little tired in the afternoon because we had a big meal, because we just had a big lunch, and then all of a sudden, like the afternoon is not as productive. That can happen. That's a universal truth out there. Not to everybody, but a lot of us. And then in comparison, in the summer, you just have so much energy. It doesn't matter what you do. You're just going to be hype all day. So my point is, you might want to consider changing your window of eating and the quality of the food that you eat based on the season, if you want to increase your energy, or if you just want to, if it doesn't mean that much. So for me, I introduce intermediate fasting in the fall, and I keep increasing it. So right now in the winter, I'm happy to be eating once a day right now. And I feel like I'm the most energized. I feel that I can stretch my day the longest, and I still feel good. Like I have a good cognitive function and focus and energy level. So I'm applying that. But in the springtime, I tend to relax a little bit, because I start spending a little more time outdoors, and the energy of the season is one of, let me enjoy my life. Like I've been, in the winter and it has been cold and now it's nice. And then the summer continues to expand that. We do a little more barbecuing. So being on a diet might not be as convenient and might not be as good of an idea. So look at your eating windows and quality of your food based on the season as well.
And do you find food does have a big part in SAD?
Absolutely. When I mentioned that the environment is one of the biggest influencers in the way we feel and behave and think, the environment has 3 components, which one of them is the exterior environment, the weather in this case. The second one is the social environment, whoever you spend time with will have a drastic effect in your subconscious. And then thirdly is your body's environment, meaning your body is the environment of your brain. So whatever you put on your body is going to make your brain play with that chemistry. You know what I mean? Like your brain is going to order, without you realizing, functions in your body based on what you eat and how much you eat and the timing of when you eat. So it's important to pay attention to it. And I'm not going micro detail here, but in the big picture, that's why.
And I think what you said about daytime saving, in the spring, when we gain an hour to have more sunshine, we're naturally happier. But when we lose an hour in fall, it's like we're falling into the dark, cold, the days get shorter. Like in the UK, at this time of the year, it gets light about 8 a.m. and it gets dark for about 4 p.m. So we've got a very small window of grey skies, but daytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. My heart goes to you guys. At least I have sun out right now. We're blessed with that. It's miserably cold. So, but we got a little more lighting. I can relate to that. And we do get patches during the year. We go 2 weeks without seeing the sun as well, but it's not as constant as you guys experience. But we get those patches of cloudiness for 2 weeks at a time, about 4 or 5 times a year. So, you know, I don't know where your question is leading, but yeah, that has a significant effect in the way that we feel, think, and behave. So what we do is that we don't pay attention as much of how we think and how we feel, even though there is room for that, you know, mindset that allows you to navigate that properly. But the number one influence that we can have is in our behaviors. If you change your behaviors, you can change your thinking and your feeling. That's why we attack it from that perspective, on creating seasonal routines that align our behaviors to where we want to go and the way that we want to feel and the way that we want to think. Because all of a sudden, after a week of doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to start thinking the way you're supposed to start thinking. And then after a week after that, you're going to start feeling the way you're supposed to be feeling. And then you're unstoppable. You got to align those three.
So I'm waking up, I'm exercising, I'm eating better. Would you recommend vitamin D supplements or any other supplements to help?
Absolutely. But again, that's the cherry on top of the cream. Now you're talking about biohacking to a certain level, and it's just supplements. So I'm just saying there's a lot of biohacks out there that will be beneficial, including supplements. But that comes after you have a solid foundation. So if you look at my supplement stack in the wintertime, right now I have fish oil, vitamin D, vitamin C, because, you know, everything that's going out there, and a multivitamin. Is different in the summertime. So my supplements kind of change a little bit based on the season as well, based on what we are not getting, what we're lacking, in this case, the sunlight.
But I think, like a lot of people, they want a quick tablet, a quick supplement, but you have to put in all the hard work around it, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but the quick pill doesn't really exist anywhere in life, including mental health. If you put in a pill and think that that's going to solve the problems, well, you know, that might lead us where we are now, and it might not really change, because it is a compound effect. From all studies about seasonal affective disorder has been proved that the best way to go about it is by compounding behaviors, compounding supplements, compounding biohacks. Just doing a little bit of every area of your life will have a higher impact than taking one pill, which is just taking one action in one area, which is supplements.
And it's become the world, hasn't it? I want a supplement to make me lose weight. I want a supplement to make me pay attention. I want it, and this quick fix just does not exist in the real world, and B, in a consistent world, does it?
Correct. This is a supplement right now. So I turn on my light. Am I supposed to expect to be happy? You know, it doesn't work that way. It's just a little fix. It will add up, and it will add up when you compound it with more things. So yeah, there is nothing like it.
And if you or someone who you know might be suffering with this, what would you tell someone to keep their eyes out for if their partner is suddenly feeling down, or what would you tell them to look out for?
This is what has worked in my life and what I always recommend. And is that sometimes I still get it. I have come to a point to realize that even though I'm having a great winter, if it comes my way, it's not my fault. Let me look around and see what happened. And all these behaviors truly help. I've been having a great winter this year. I have one bad day and one bad 2 hours. And I have come to accept that they usually come early on because I'm on top of it. But right now, I see all the Facebook groups of people with SAD just exploding. Like they don't know what to do. And even though I have offered them solutions, sometimes people just don't want to do anything. Now, what I have to say about that is, if you are in a bad day, you or your significant other are in a bad day, you just wake up feeling off. You're anxious, confused, maybe even depressed. You're uncomfortable. Just look around your life and go through every single area of your life, and just go through your family and ask yourself, has something changed in my family? Look around your business. Has something changed in your business? Look at your health. Has something changed in my health? Go through every single area that's meaningful to you. And if the answer is no to all of them, and then you ask yourself, has the weather changed? Well, then you know what the issue is.
Because sometimes in life we can feel down, like we can feel happy. Some days you wake up and you feel happy. That's how it is to be a human being, isn't it? We're up, we're down, but sometimes there are other factors that can really change our outlook on the world.
So I will dive deep on that, because that opens the door for a philosophy of the movement, which is that you mentioned the ups and downs, and I will say that they are not the natural way of us to live our life. We're not supposed to be in a roller coaster up and down from a well-being perspective. Of course, our business might do it, but to go to an extreme low and high within a week and really let that affect us, that's not well-being. And even though I experience that as a business owner, I have to control that, and I have to understand that it's not my fault. So if I internalize that and I live in a constant up and down, that's part of the issue. Let me explain. We all understand how bad things are in the winter, because it's easy to see somebody that is down, somebody that has no energy, somebody that is not really going and getting the world and being productive and doing the things that now society tells you are good. It's natural to look at them and see that they have a problem. But how about the person that in the spring and the summertime is way high, is just uncontrollable, is too spontaneous, is aiming on every single direction with really no aim, is just too funny and making jokes and drinking too much and just not really going in the right direction? That is also negative, and that shows that there is cyclicality in the way that we go throughout the year, and the two lows are as bad as the too high. So what we want to do is understand that the cyclical pattern of the year in nature is expressed on the yin yang. If you look at the yin yang and you see the horizontal wave, going up and going down, and you put the year down here, you can see, for example, this is the summertime, and then it comes down in the wintertime. And if this side has your energy level, let's say that on the summertime you're at 80, and on the winter time you're at 40. What you want to do is be conscious of that, because that's your natural drawn towards that time of the year, and you want to take advantage of that. You don't want a flat line. You want to have that up and down, but you want to have a smooth and harmonious up and down. And it's just one constant throughout the year. It's not like this, like the stock market. That means there is an issue, and you're not aligning yourself with the environment, with the natural energy of the season. Sometimes you're going too high, sometimes you're going too low. What you want to do is, in the winter time, take it from 40, maybe 60. And this is just an example. It might be from 50 to 70. You want to get that a little higher so that you can continue with your goals, with your life goals and your purpose. And then in the summertime, what you might want to do is take it from 80 to 70. And the reason why is because otherwise if you go higher than that, or you continue to try to go at the 80% all year round or for a long period of time, you burn out. There is no sustainability on being too high or higher than you're supposed to be for a long period of time. So the seasons allow us to identify those patterns of a little more relaxation, a little more resting, a little more introspection, a little more planning, which is still very positive, and it directs you in the long term in the right direction. Take those, like, might look like a break from the outside, but when you're sitting there and resting, you're thinking clearly and you're directing your intention clearly. And then when the spring arrives, it's time to go. And there's nothing that stops you. Because if you're not aligned when the spring arrives, there's a lot of frustration. There is a lot of internal turmoil because you want to do something, but you don't know what to do. Like, you didn't took the time to create a plan to know which direction you want to go strategically. So now it's time to go and you are not ready. And then the same thing goes in the summer. You continue to go and expand and achieve and go higher. And then the fall arrives and you start slowing down a little bit. You start picking the pieces that you left behind. You know, you have to move on quickly through that project. So, you know, you left some behind. Fall is great for that. So it's a constant cycle of expansion by tapping into the natural energy of the season.
Anything you want to say, Lee?
No, I think we're good.
Well, that's been brilliant. Ruben, I've learned a lot from that. Is there anything before you go? Is there any points or anything you would like to touch on?
Well, I would like, if I can invite the audience to follow us. Is that
Of course,
right?
yeah.
All your links, Ruben, are on the description. All your links are on the description to all your socials.
Okay, just follow us. That's what we're doing. This is a full-time venture. Like, you know, that's the message, is to get you connected and aligned with the seasons, understand it, give you practical guidance on how to align it. And we're in every single social media, so I look forward connecting. Like, that will be the conclusion of this talk. Yeah.
And have you got any quotes or sayings that have helped you get through life?
Recently, I've been stuck on Tony Robbins, and the fact that he mentioned that pattern recognition is one of the most important facets that you can do for personal development to grow, is to recognize the patterns and recognize when they are cyclical, so that you can first recognize them, you can enter into that pattern in a good way, and then so that you can create your own patterns. So that quote, I cannot quote it precisely, but it reflects to the importance of patterns, and it's from Tony Robbins.
Well, thank you, brother, for making the time to come on. And thank you guys for listening. So until we see each other next time, I want you all to take care of yourselves and each other. Ta-ra a bit.
Listen.
And that's a wrap for another show. But if there are any comments or messages that you would like us to read out for our next podcast, please be in touch. There are also lots of different organisations at the bottom of this page, and hopefully they can help you or someone you care about. Please share this to spread the word. Until we talk next time, ta-ra a bit.
Listen.